So as a social experiment, I tried some of the techniques from your book at my last job, and it worked out great. To follow suit, how can I Tim Ferriss my love life? And yes, I just used your name as a verb.
I'm sorry, how can you Tim Ferriss your love life? What was the second part?
And yes, I used your name as a verb.
Oh, okay. Damn, that means I can't trademark my name if that catches on. Turn into the Kleenex of love life automation. How can you Tim Ferriss your love life? Well, for those of you who are not aware, I'll share a very brief story. So, when the book was about to launch, there are a few things I did. I planned a number of stunts of sorts, and I also withheld a number of blog posts for 2 years. All right, so there was a post called Geek to Freak, how I gained 34 pounds of muscle in 30 days or something like that, which went everywhere. And one of the critiques was, well, if this happened 2 years ago, what took you so long? It's like, well, what was the benefit to me of throwing it up 2 years ago? Now I have a book launch. It makes perfect sense. Now I'm on Wired. So that's why. But one of the other things I did is I was like, man, how can I get into at least a local paper? I had no resources related to media and PR guys. None. It was very, very guerrilla in the beginning stages. So I was like, how can I get into the San Jose Mercury News or the San Francisco Chronicle so that then sites like FARC could potentially pick something up, and probably the highest traffic site that most people have perhaps not heard of here. Really, really great site. How can I get on FARC or whatever? Dig. That was another reason I did the Geek to Freak thing. And I figured out that if I took the outsourcing and just outsourced my love life for a period of time, that could be interesting. So what I did was, I was living in San Jose, nicknamed Man Jose for good reasons, at the time. And what I did is I went to Elance and I posted a project which was setting dates for me, coffee dates, in an online calendar, and recruited about half a dozen teams from around the world, India, Philippines. This team of Americans in Jamaica working for like $4 an hour, which I thought was very unusual. Ukrainians, what have you. And they all had the spec sheet. It was very professionally done. And I had, this is tremendously offensive to some people. Please try to have a sense of humor. And then I had links to this girl I find attractive, this girl, no, not so much. And it was very specific. Like, these are good interests. Like, tattoos and heroin, not really my thing, maybe. And really made it detailed, as if I was sending out a project for, request for a proposal. And signed up all these teams, and they competed. So there were performance bonuses. And there was, for the number of dates that they could set for me, initially it was going to be all over the map. Like, I'm available on Thursday from this date to this date, this time to this time, Monday from this time to this time. And I was like, man, that's going to be a nightmare for 20-minute coffee dates. That's going to be a disaster, really interruptive. So I was like, well, why don't I try to batch my dates like I would batch my email? So I had all of the dates set for one weekend. And not only that, but I was like, how far can I push this? Obviously, I'm not recommending that everybody do this. But I was like, how far can I really push this? I was like, okay, well, let's say I'm particularly uninspired to put forth a lot of effort. Let me have all the dates, all the coffee dates at 3 coffee shops on my downtown street, which was 5 minutes walking. This was like 2020, and they ended up booking more than 20 coffee dates in 2 days, and it was confusing. It was really confusing. And then, oh boy, I mean, there were some glitches, there were some bugs. One of the so for example, I gave them a discretionary budget of something like $50 each to be what did I say? Be creative. This is terrible wording. It's like, be creative if there's another site or profile that I'm not currently using, because I delegated a profile to each person, or each team rather. So it's like, all right, match goes to this team, this goes to this team, Yahoo Personals, let's say, and then Plenty of Fish, whatever. And then some teams would get 2, because I was like, all right, you have to take the weighted average. Like, match is a huge advantage, so I'll give them 2 or 3 profiles. And I gave them this discretionary budget, and they had rules of things they couldn't do. But the Filipino team really ignored this. And what I found funny was first they said they were Canadian, and they're using French names and stuff. And they're like, sorry, we got to you a little late. The bridge in Manila was down. And I was like, what? Warning sign number 1. And then warning sign number 2 was they forgot to put a date in the calendar. And this poor girl, she shows up, and I had my headset on. There was nothing scheduled. I was just listening to music. And she's like, hey, Tim. And she started like throwing out all these inside jokes. And I was like, yeah. And the team had been impersonating me. They hadn't been, their instructions were very clear. They were supposed to be like, dear Beth, Beth, this is like Venkatesh, Neurocool writing on behalf of Mr. Timothy Ferriss or whatever. So like part of the litmus test was like, do these girls have a sense of humor? It's like, you have to when you get something like that. But what they had done is had these elaborate, they'd done all this research on me and done these elaborate like IM conversations and all these inside jokes. And she's like, you've forgotten all about our, conversation about this. And I'm like, that was the only real glitch. But ended up with at the time, a long-term girlfriend out of it. And that is something I had not been able to do, as depressing as it is to admit, in like 6 months of going out to bars and clubs and parties and so forth. So can it work? Yeah. If you wanted to Tim Ferriss your love life, caveat emptor, watch the French Filipinos. But that would be one approach.